We're going to get started again with our three candidates for Ward 7 seat. This seat being vacated by Lisa Klein. So we have Rachel Maori, Penny Guys, and Hanuman Goldman. And once again, we're going to give each candidate 3 minutes for an opening statement, and then we're going to give each candidate 1 minute to respond to each question. And again, we're going to save 10 minutes for audience questions. So let's get started. Let's start with you, Hanuman.
As I will. Begin whenever? Or are we waiting for a
We're
thing?
waiting for you. You just start.
Okay, here we go.
All right.
My name is Hanuman Goldman. I live over by JFK Middle School, and I've been a resident of Northampton since the early 2000s. Grew up in Haydenville and Williamsburg. My area of focus in my life generally is around emotional health and well-being, and with an extra side of mindfulness practice. And I've had a publishing company for about 13 years, and the area of environmental policy is not a place where I'm a wonk in any way. I feel strongly that we have to reverse course and shift course from where we have been. Greed has been far too much of a driver of our economy, and that has made us, that's put us in a situation where we are using chemicals and resources without considering the human consequence and the environmental consequence, the ecosystem consequence. And I feel very strongly that that is important to address. So I'm very happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Penny.
So, local government has been my life. And so when someone suggested I run, I said, I've done that before. And then I had 2 sleepless nights and thought, actually, there are some things I really care about. You know, today in the world, we worry about guns and racism and nuclear war and women's rights and abortion and gun control. All of these are really important questions. They all matter. But if we don't get climate right, the rest don't matter much. So I'm glad there are people working on all these other problems. But climate is the reason I'm running. I care a great deal about it. Way back at the first Earth Day, I helped plant trees. And our little group of 5 women got our regional grocery store to charge 5 cents for each disposable bag they gave you, encouraging everyone in town to use reusable bags. You know, that was 20, 30 years ago. So reducing waste and reducing single-use things is something I've believed in forever. I was blessed to be invited by Stan Rosenberg when he was chair of House Ways and Means to come in and help modify and craft a wonderful bill that someone else invented about electricity aggregation. And I vetted it with the Inspector General at the time to make sure the wording protected the rights of the public to access and oversee what was going on. And so when I discovered that these amazing people are working to bring electricity aggregation for the purpose of building green energy and reducing our climate, I was over the top ecstatic, and I'm so pleased that they have been strategic in having these meetings and forcing every single candidate across the city to think about it. So it seems to me that regardless of who we elect, we will have a city council that supports making Northampton a leader, and not only in reducing carbon, but becoming sustainable for the future that's coming. Thank you.
Thank you. So it should be okay. Great.
Well, thank you, and thank you for everyone here for being engaged, residents. And really here is the answer to why I am running for city council. I believe that the issue of the climate crisis, and all the things that we are facing now nationally can be addressed on the local level. And this is where I feel that agency can make an impact. And when the leadership kind of is failing at this higher level, this is where we can fortify ourselves. I would be thrilled to be part of planning a resilient future for Northampton, one that serves as a model for other municipalities around climate initiatives, and make the changes here that we really want to see at larger levels, at the state and local and global levels. I'm a lifelong social justice activist, and I have a passion for environmental issues. My top area of focus in my public health career was pesticide exposure and education around pesticide exposure. And now that I'm a mom of 3 kids, I feel it really viscerally, the threat of impending disaster, the urgency of healing our world. I see the climate crisis as not an autonomous issue dangling over here. It is very interconnected with our culture, and we need a cultural shift. Racism, income inequality, misogynistic beliefs, all about domination, exploitation, seeing air and water as commodities to be exploited, the third world and the ocean as dumping grounds. This is going to have to change. And it's because the solutions of the climate crisis are so multidimensional that I really want to be part of the governance to change and shape these policies that will, change our tomorrow for us and for our kids, and for nature. So I feel my experience as a health professional, an organizer, an advocate, and my kind of deep working relationships that I already exist because of those roles with legislators and state departments and city departments. I think this will really serve in this advocacy role around climate in Northampton and in the city council. Thank you. And I just wanted to say that it's a lot to get to tonight, and I put my cell number on my palm cards in the back, and really don't feel free to reach out with any questions or ideas.
Well, thank you all. I am going to launch into our questions, and I've created for myself an order that varies, so it wouldn't be the same person starting first each time. But we are going to start again with Hanuman for this first question. And the first question is, do you believe that we are facing a climate emergency?
Yes, I do. Absolutely. It's clear that it's happening when you look around the weather events that are continually weird around the world, that are stronger here, less than they have been historically. Global weirding is a real thing, and it's happening. Yes.
So, Penny and then Rachel.
There's a debate tonight, so my answer is yes.
She's going for short.
I want to see your math equation that came up with that question word right there. Yes, we are facing a climate emergency, and in fact have been facing it for a long time now. The UN's Intergovernmental Panel for Climate Change has given us 10 years to change course. 10 years. Professor Richard Alley put it this way: all of us are fully aware of how wrong it is to falsely yell fire in a crowded theater, but we are also aware of how wrong it is to sit silently while a fire begins to spread. We are on fire, and it is spreading.
We learn every day how other municipalities around the globe are taking bold steps to meet aggressive climate goals. What role should Northampton play in addressing our climate challenges? And if elected, what sort of leadership role will you assume to address these problems? And do you have any specific legislation you're considering? And that goes to Penny, then Rachel, and then Anna.
Well, you've probably figured out already from my first statement that I will be supporting electricity aggregation for the city as one of my top priorities, maybe the top priority. And my second priority, we haven't talked about, but I think it's related to making us sustainable, and that's installing fiber optic cable throughout the city. I think both of these projects can be funded without taxpayer money. 30 seconds. They can be funded with user fees. And by connecting fiber optic cable to everyone's home, that will enable us to use smart technology to have smart meters. As people put more smart appliances in, we can manage that so that we can shave our peak and not be turning on those most polluting coal-fired plants that we only turn on at the peak times.
Right, so specifically I would like to expand the plastics ban in our city. And I think it's great that the city has set a goal for 2050 of net zero carbon. I think we need something sooner. I think we need maybe a 2035 goal of 45%, something to keep us on track. And I think community education is actually a critical component of success with climate initiatives. And we can also really don't have to reinvent the wheel. We can use successes in other municipalities and see what's working and apply it here. I'm heartened and want to continue Councilor Klein's work on the Select Committee on Pesticide Reduction. I'm concerned. You know, the toxic algae that was in the ponds in Northampton this summer, there's a lot of connection nationally and internationally with glyphosate and toxic algae. So I would love to continue that work, and just hold industries accountable for damage that they may do within our city.
This question here. So, because, and I think everybody who bothered to come out tonight agrees with this, that this is a really important aspect of humanity's well-being going forward. This is not a forte of mine, so if I were elected, I would really rely on groups like the ones involved in this meeting here to guide my understanding and to actually offer input. And I would actively seek input on these issues for these things, but I don't think it makes sense for me to say things I don't know. So I'm very open to this, and I'm a very good listener and action taker when I know things. So my leadership in this area would really be around reaching out to find the resources and the answers that I would need in order to act properly here.
Thank you. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change calls for 45% emissions reductions by 2030 in order to avoid temperature rises greater than 1.5 degrees Celsius. Do you think that our city should make firm commitments to measurable emissions reductions and specified timelines in our master plan as we undergo the review and approval of the master plan in 2020. And Rachel would be first. Hanma second. And
Okay. Yes, in public health, we never plan without metrics because, you need to evaluate what's working. So yes, I think that I've looked at the draft plan. I think that we definitely need metrics. The city's regeneration and resilience plan needs to have measurable goals. That's fair. And I think we need to really review what's in there and see what are reasonable goals, but reach as far as we can.
Hanma, and then Penny.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Of course.
Getting right to the point tonight. What could you do as a city councilor to help ensure that low-income people who are most impacted by climate change have a voice in decision-making on the various policies that will affect them, and also would have access to green jobs and other opportunities in our changing world? We're going to start with Hanma, and then go to Penny, and then Rachel.
Yeah, this is really crucial. Populations that don't have a voice traditionally in our system have gotten the wrong end of things, and outreach, direct outreach, and creative outreach, and outreach and education. In order to correct the system that we have to take real action in this area. We have to reach out actively to underrepresented communities and invite them into the conversation. And that can't just be talk. We have to actually do it. We have to actually physically go to people and say, hello, this is what's happening. Would you like to be involved? And that's the kind of, that is a forte of mine. That's something I'm very good at. And so that is the sort of action that I would take.
The community, the people who are most affected by climate change are our children and our grandchildren. I have 3 in the public schools here, one at Leeds, one at JFK, and one at Smith Folk. It seems to me one of the ways we can engage these most affected people is through the schools. They should be learning about climate change and practical things to do. Kids at Smith Folk should be preparing for jobs within the green economy. Another thing we can do to make sure that affected people get a voice is to set up the committees so that they require representatives of various groups to be included. I'm on a committee for 20 years. I've been on a United Way committee here that distributes money for emergency food and shelter, and we, by law, have to have representatives of a variety of communities who benefit from that on our task force, on our board, and we should do the same thing with these committees.
Right, our children and also people of color, poor neighborhoods. And globally, it's the developing world that is most affected by climate change. And that's why the poorest communities are now, not in the future, suffering. They're hotter, they have less green infrastructure, and they have less resources to deal with it. I would be interested in using a model I use as a public health professional, which is community-led health workers. But instead of health workers, we use people from the community as emissaries. and start with educational campaigns, and also always with the mind of increasing civic engagement, because that's going to bring more people to the table. And that's why I want to bring childcare to municipal meetings. That's why I want to lower the voting age to 16. And that's why I'd like to be more proactive about getting more voices at the table.
Thank you. So how do you all feel about the recent resolution passed by our current city council opposing the construction of any new, quote, natural gas infrastructure in our region? And we're going to go to Penny, and then Rachel, and then Hanuman.
I have a son that lives not far from me, and he's fond of saying, renewable does not come in a pipe. And I totally support that, and I totally support not having any more gas. I'd also like to say that I live in a condo that was built in 1880, the building. It has gas heat in it, and that we have discovered there's a leak where the gas comes into the house. The gas company has known about this for over a year, and again, just this week, I talked to them, and they have put off once again repairing it. It's not a priority, because we're going into winter, and blah, blah, blah. So, not only is gas bad for us when we use it properly, it's bad for our environment when we don't maintain it. And we know that this gas company we have has serious problems with maintaining their lines in other places.
Right, we don't need to be expanding gas infrastructure. It doesn't serve our long-term interests. We need to actually be reducing the amount of gas we're using and wean ourselves off fossil fuels. And a great place to start in becoming more energy efficient is to get Columbia Gas and gas companies to maintain and fix the leaks, all of the leaks in their existing structure. And we need that for our own health and safety. We need to modernize our heating systems. And I'd really like to see Columbia Gas be part of the solution and not the problem.
I do support the resolution opposing the construction of any new pipelines. And in saying that, I also recognize that that makes it the situation for a lot of people that they are heating with oil. And I think that we have to really assist, that it behooves us all for the municipality to do whatever it can to assist in the transition from oil and dirtier burning sources. Yeah.
Do you think that our city should be investing more resources to expand the capacity of our Energy and Sustainability Office? And if so, in what ways? I'm going to go Rachel, Hanuman, and then Penny.
I liked Alex Jarrett's idea about having an officer in each department. That was bold. I think the first place to start would be to go talk to the office and ask them what their big dreams are and where they would like to see expansion. And then it will take some creativity to free up those resources, human resources, money to expand the office. But I would go back to what I was talking about in the beginning about the interconnectedness and look at issues of affordability and ways in which climate isn't captured and just looking at it as an issue that dangles over here. Looking about how, at every decision, we can talk about how to minimize the impact on our environment.
So I'm just looking for this. Which number is this question?
Oh, I've been changing the questions around. You know, you're not buying them. I know. Yeah, it's hard. She's very sneaky.
Would you ask it again?
Yeah. Do you think that our city should invest more in our Office of Sustainability, Energy and Sustainability?
direction that's not harmful, but actually is building us up towards sustainability and resilience, we have to invest more. Yeah.
I'll also give Alex credit for a brilliant idea. Every department should have someone, and I don't think this requires more money. I think each department can appoint someone that's already working for them to be their energy coordinator and liaison to a citywide committee, so that every department will be involved in decisions and discussions about how we can be more green, how we can save energy. In addition, if we are going to have electricity aggregation, I'm assuming we are going to have someone overseeing that. And whether it's in the energy department or the planning and sustainability department, we will need to have someone there. And again, I think that for the long term, that does not need to come from property taxes, that this should be a utility type endeavor, and the user fees should pay that. That's part of it. The people who are selling us electricity now take a profit, and we should be keeping that profit and using it to run the program.
Thank you. So, how do you all feel about the recent resolution that our current city council voted in favor of, the Blue Communities Resolution, which includes a point about not selling single-use plastic water bottles? However, our schools are in fact selling them. What would you do as a counselor about that? And would you support an ordinance for requiring water filling stations in all commercial buildings and all schools? And even beyond that, what rules would you propose for other forms of single-use plastic, like styrofoam? We're going to start with Hanuman, go to Penny, and then Rachel.
Yeah, I'm absolutely in support of getting rid of these things. I think it was a terrible idea in the first place, and it made sense, like from a business perspective. You got to package things and put them in things, but there are so many technologies right now that we don't have to use crappy plastic. We should just be using the proper material at this point. They perform perfectly fine. They biodegrade. There's no reason to be using plastics at this point. Besides, it's what we've always done. So absolutely, I support getting rid of those. And I think that education is really key to having it hurt the community less, because we have pretty major societal habits that this will impact, and there's always a pushback there. And so in order to do this properly, we have to have critical mass on board, and that comes through direct communication and education.
I have a daughter who lives in Berkeley, California. So we can just take their regulations as a template and do the same things here. They don't have any of these plastic disposable drinking things they give away. All of even their big chain restaurants, fast food places, they all use things that can be composted. There's no reason we can't do the same thing here. Just these plastic disposable drinking things are ridiculous.
So yes, I support an ordinance for water filling stations. I also, as I mentioned before, would like to expand the plastics ban for all styrofoam. But we also need to acknowledge that there's an agenda at play here, and meet to talk about that revenue that the water bottles are presently bringing in, and work with the school and the city over that. And I'd also, I actually think that having local businesses have water filling stations would be a great way to support businesses and bring a little foot traffic. I think water filling stations are very social.
Thank you. What policies and/or ordinances would you propose to support reducing our transportation emissions? infrastructure improvements would you recommend to make us a more walkable, bikeable city, and how can we increase the use of electric vehicles and electric buses? I'm going to go first to Penny, and then Rachel, and then Hung.
Sidewalks, bike lanes. It's not only reducing our energy and encouraging people to walk and bicycle, it's safety. Our sidewalks are not safe now. In the middle of last winter, the main crosswalk at King and Pleasant Street, in the crosswalk, had big, icy, lumpy things that made it dangerous to even walk across it. How confusing is it to drive down Main Street and not be sure whether there's 2 lanes or 1 lane? We need to be making that narrower, clearly 1 lane, and a clear, safe place for bicycles. If we want people to be bicycling, we have to make it safe. It's not even just unsafe for the bicyclers, it's unsafe for people who are driving. It would ruin my life to run into someone and kill them. We need, for all of us, whichever way we are traveling, we need to keep bicycle and pedestrian paths safe. I'm using some of the time I didn't use on fast answers. The city has a study they've already done on sidewalk safety. And the summary is on their webpage. I have asked for all the appendices. Hopefully I will get them, because we have just got to ramp up the priority of making sidewalks safe, particularly around our schools, as well as downtown. Thank you.
Thank you. So the first one was about emissions, correct? Yeah, transportation emissions. Yeah. So, right, we definitely need more auto charging stations. I hear that from my friends all the time who have electric vehicles. We need more bike racks downtown. And we need, bike ballets. And shopping local is a great way to reduce our carbon footprint in terms of transportation of goods. I think we really need to collaborate with universities because there's a lot of long distance to university traveling, and they contribute to our carbon load here. And green infrastructure would be great to cut emissions, as we know, more trees and more warm weather trees. And we there was a post on Facebook of someone who taped a lipstick cam to their wheelchair and went up and down sidewalks, and it was a little wrenching, because even once it seemed clear, he was getting hit in the face with a brush, and our senior population is set to grow tremendously. We really need to think about keeping our walkways truly accessible, to keep everyone healthy and getting out there and choosing not to drive.
Electrifying our vehicle fleet, both municipally, but whatever the city can do to encourage people to drive electric, whether it's an excise tax incentive, I'm not sure what the possible tools would be, but it's clear that there's a great benefit from when people are driving electric vehicles. I think charging stations are a really big part of that. So as far as emissions are concerned, electric vehicles, like if you want an SUV now, you can get an electric SUV. If you like, the technology is just turning over so quickly that it becomes really viable, and the prices are coming down. So whatever the city can do to incentivize this sort of technology.
Thank you.
So how do you think about how we can make our state insulation and weatherization programs more within reach of those who are suffering the most and who have the greatest difficulty affording to insulate or weatherize their homes. The Mass Save program was a rebate program, so you have to put the money up front, and that's a big disincentive. What do you think we can do locally to get homes and businesses better weatherized? I'm gonna go Rachel, Hanuman, and Penny.
Yeah, this has been a big personal issue for me because I have the education to know what needs to happen in terms of cutting our emissions. And yet my family lives paycheck to paycheck in an old home, and our choices are very limited. And we can't really utilize a lot of those services. And especially, I think it's worse with rental stock. We need to think about weatherization of rental stock and how to make sure that occurs. So these are big issues. I do think I had good experiences at Community Action. I love programs like Heat Smart and Mass Saves, but we could do a better job with proactively helping folks with forms and having them available in languages. And being proactive about the information. There's a lot of confusion, and it's quite complicated to apply for a lot of those services. So I think starting there would be, a good place to start.
We're also in a similar situation where we have weatherization that needs to occur, and we just don't have the funds to do it, and so sometimes we're cold. And I don't know. This is an area not of my expertise, but I'm very open to hearing people's answers.
So I do have some experience with this, having worked with the volunteers around the Heat Smart program, and having put in a heat pump in my own home. And in spite of the assumption in this question, I did not have to put that money up ahead of time. I got a 0 interest loan and the rebates did not come to me. They went directly to the contractor. I didn't have to pay anything until the project was done, and the loan came in, and people need to know, I took the first December I had this, and compared the bill and the temperature. The utility company has the average temperatures for each month on their website. So it was much colder than it was the December before. And I compared my gas bill, my electric bill, and my loan payment, and it was cheaper in the cold year than it was in the warmer year. So this is something that we need to help people understand, that they can save money without putting upfront money. You get a better deal if you're lower income. People can do this. We just need to help them understand.
Thank you. Let's now talk about land conservation as a powerful tool for carbon sequestration and protecting our ecological resources. How would you help the city and region to maximize conservation of our forests and farms and shift land use practices? We're going to go with Hanuman, Penny, and then Rachel.
I think this is a really tough one because it gets into also tax revenue. Is what I'm hearing a lot when I'm knocking on doors. When land goes into public use, there's no tax revenue from it. And so I think we need to be wise in addressing that so that in not hurting us, our health, the health of our ecosystem, we are also not hurting the economic viability of the city itself. I think beyond that, this is also just not my expertise, so I'm not going to ramble on. I'll spare you.
Trees and bees, we need them. We wouldn't be be here without them, and we won't be here without them. So one of the things that we're doing in the Leeds Civic Association is that we're supporting the city in its efforts to have more conservation land in our neighborhood. We talked about it, it was this Tuesday night at our meeting, is how can we support, as a neighborhood, the city acquiring more land in our neighborhood? And we are doing that. So neighborhoods as associations, as people who live here, can work with the city to increase the amount of conservation land in your own area.
Well, so green infrastructure is always a good way to really keep our lands vibrant. Having warm weather and shade tree stock available and planting, encouraging native planting, drastically reducing pesticides, which actually promote erosion and can kill microbes in soil and make the turnover happen too fast. And I think there's a lot of great things Northampton's doing. I'd like to see them continue with the land conservation and expanding, and also their policy of infill development is very applaudable, and I think is working. I'd like to see more pocket parks and green space downtown where we can find it and grab it. And we have such a great, we have so many great farms around here who understand the cost of monoagriculturalism and are trying some really exciting farming techniques, Fred.
Thinking about downtown and Main Street, the city is in the process of envisioning for a new Main Street for the future. What is your vision of how our downtown can be both more climate friendly and more vibrant and inviting? We're going to go with Penny and Rachel and then Hanuman.
Not only do we have downtown we're trying to re-envision, we have Florence Center. I've been to both of the visioning sessions that the planning department had with the people who care about downtown Florence. And the vision of having a lot more trees is beautiful. I wish the property owners had been present for the discussion, and I hope that we will include them in future discussions about what we think they ought to be doing with their property. Downtown, more trees is wonderful. As I said earlier, making it safer by making it narrower, by having bicycles separated from the cars. I think those are things that we can do to make downtown more pleasant. But as far as making downtown more vital, bringing back our stores, which sounds to me like that's part of this question. I was in Amherst one Thursday night recently. A friend was having an art show, and it was hopping. Music on the common, people having picnics, families running around. Every restaurant had people sitting on the sidewalk. I came back through Northampton just for curiosity through downtown. It was dead. So there is a problem there that is beyond trees. I don't have now I'm taking an answer from you. I don't have the answer. I hope that making our city more appealing to residents will bring more people downtown.
Right, so a lot of the same principles, the principles that would apply to downtown Northampton also would apply to Florence Center. I loved Florence Night Out. I don't know who was there, but it was fantastic. It was really social. So I think, and as you know, downtown Northampton has nights like that. I think they really promote community and show what it can be like without cars running through, even if it's just for a night or a couple of days. I think, we need more trees and wider sidewalks to promote foot traffic downtown. And distinct bike lanes would be great downtown. And as I said, more bike racks. Let's see, what else is on my dream list? I said more charging stations, but also, mixed residential commercial spaces promote people being downtown and utilizing businesses downtown because they live down there. So thinking about how to use, I think the lumberyard's fantastic, and I think that's an example of that kind of initiative.
One of the big things that keeps businesses out of downtown is the rents. And, there are a lot of alternatives right now that we are not implementing. Things like trucks for food trucks, smaller kiosks. In order, I have a vision of downtown, which is totally unrealistic, but I'm gonna say it right now. I would love for it to just be walking. For years, I just don't understand why from the main light down there at the World Bank or the Silverscape up to the Academy. What if that was just freaking bricked over and we could just walk on that? That would be amazing. I know it's a traffic redirection thing. It's never going to happen. But then you could have kiosks in the middle, have smaller business owners that could actually afford their rent, and you could have food trucks coming. Why no food trucks? What's up? Right.
Yeah.
Let's get some food trucks in here. These are right. That would be an amazing downtown. I think it would also draw people from other towns, and the business community would really benefit.
Thanks for all these fun ideas. So we're going to turn now to audience questions. Just raise your hand. There's one in the back in the corner.
So we've done Heat Smart Northampton, we've done Solarize Northampton, we've done Solarize Hot Water Northampton, and these are all fine and dandy, and they've been somewhat subsidized by the state to do these things. But what I'm wondering is what can we do as a city to do these on a repetition basis? Because there are a lot of times when people say, gosh, that sounds great, I'd love to do that Heat Smart program, but I just can't afford it right now. Or I'd love to put more insulation in the house, but I can't afford it. And we just did. Couldn't afford it, by the way. It's expensive. So how can we as a city do a recurring program like that where we can bring up this Heat Smart thing every 5 years or something, so that people who are moving into the city can say, oh, this old house really needs that. Great, we can do that now. Or other programs like that.
Going to start on this side and move that way.
Yeah, I would love to see that too. And there's often gaps in times in those programs. And this is why we really need strong advocates in city council who can advocate at the state level to keep the programs going, to uncover and promote incentivized grants and incentives for people. I think partnerships are a key part of that, because there's a lot of organizations who know how to maintain programs and what's effective, and so I think it would be reaching out and doing those partnerships and collaborating and looking at models of other cities where it's successful, where they can consistently provide those types of services for their folks, and especially their lower income residents.
Another reason why it would be good to enhance the staff in our energy offices is helping people understand these programs. Having spent a lot of time on the Heat Smart program and being proud with everyone else that we beat the other 4 towns that were doing it, who are all bigger than us in the number of people that participated. personally, I'm really disappointed. We only did like 50 houses. And they were mostly houses of people who probably would have done it anyway. We need outreach to people who are in homes that really need this, who wouldn't do it otherwise.
What I hear in your question is, how can the city maintain these initiatives regularly? And
Yeah.
to me, that sounds like a position. Like you actually have to have somebody who is shepherding these initiatives and have that be their full attention. What you described is 4 or 5 different initiatives, and that's a lot for to be generalized through a system or even one part of the government, but to actually have somebody paying attention to it fully, like a project management sort of thing, to make sure to shepherd these through. That's what I think.
Isn't that what Chris Mason does?
No.
Sounds like there's some debate about what Chris Mason does.
Oh.
He's supposed to do everything. Right. Do we have any other questions from the audience?
Let's go watch the debates.
Not yet.
Our supply of electricity comes from a variety of sources, including coal, oil, natural gas, solar, wind, even some hydropower, at least in some places in New England. In 10 years, by 2030, what mix of energy sources, of generation sources, would you like to see in electricity that's supplied to Northampton, in terms of percentages of those various potential generation sources? And to achieve your ideal distribution, what do you think the city could do to influence the kinds of sources that are used to supply that energy?
So my understanding is that now about half of our electricity comes from natural gas burning, 6%-ish from solar, 5 or 10 hydro, 5 or 10 wind, and some other, like you were saying, coal in the hotter times, colder times. I would like to see that be a really different mix. I think that we can really up our renewable energy, and that is the direction that it's going in. But we need to actually, when I don't look on a national level, but I look at a municipal level and even a state level, I feel like we are oriented in the right direction. What actual percentage mix? I'm not sure what's realistic, so I'm not going to speak about a number, but it's really clear that it's just vital for our collective well-being, and I would absolutely support anything that shifts that mix to be a higher level of renewables.
So this is a dream big question. I love it. So I would hope that we are aggregating electricity for everyone and that we're using the profits from that, and by that time have been using it for quite a while, to have our own green energy. I would hope we have 0 gas, oil, coal coming into our mix. And that we have, this is a technology that is only beginning to be developed, that we have micro turbines in our water lines and our sewer lines. These are being developed, they're being used in some places. It doesn't impact the fish. The water is flowing anyway. We should be capturing the energy that is possible. So dream big. We're 100% green, and in addition, we have a switch that we can flip when, not if, the grid goes down, and we can be sustainable within our own city when that happens.
I love microturbines.
Thank you. Yeah, microhydro is great because, I mean, it only provides like a baseline of 1%, but it's really good at mitigating those key times of energy use. And so funding became available for that. I mean, we live in watery Leeds, so that's something to explore. And microgrids are an exciting part of preparedness for our fluctuating weather that's coming, and we keep our cities functioning even if farther away springs go down. But I really think a great place to start is community choice, Clean Energy Plus 3.0, because we will be able to see what clean energy in action, various clean energy action, and it's actually a very quick way, relatively quick way to reduce emissions. It's affordable. It's doable. It brings revenue and control to the community, and keeps those revenues locally, floating locally. So I think that would be a great model for the use of mixed clean energy. Thank you.
Well, we probably have time for one more question if there is one.
Rachel said she had brochures, information on the table. I have some. I didn't know we were allowed to put them out, and I will put them out. So please take one.
Did you have a short announcement? Anybody else have a short announcement before we close?
I have been thinking about Magdalene Busey tonight because I think there's a
We
lot.
missed her.
I know, it's a big sacrifice, and I want to acknowledge it and acknowledge what she's done around climate and so many other ways. I had the fortune of meeting her, and yeah, I'm just, in a way, us all being together here to talk about the climate, it's probably a good honor for her. Thank you.
Thank you for mentioning that, Rachel.
Yeah.
Thank all of you for caring.
Yeah, thanks for coming out. Thanks for.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.